We are here for Build Mississippi. We are pleased to welcome now Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd. She represents Lafayette and Panola counties, serves as the chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Committee and vice chair of Senate Medicaid. Thanks for coming in there, Senator Boyd. Not far for you today.
Not far from me at all, and this is a great event. As Universities and College Chair, I love to see events like this going on across the state. I think it really gives our youth out there a real opportunity to get that hands-on competition experience in their CTE work. And so I love seeing this and all the kids that seem to be super excited and happy about what they're doing.
I agree. That's the best part of it is just to see them having fun.
They're having a great time with this. So I've seen this event a number of years. I've actually wandered in here. I used to be part of the Camper Caucus, and so they would set this event up every year, and we would come over here and watch it being done. And so this is just super exciting to see this going on in the state.
Yeah. Wanted to have you to come by today and talk about Senate Bill 2452. I know this is something, obviously, you're heavily involved in and very passionate about. Tell us about this bill and where it stands right now, what your concerns are.
Well, just starting off by saying, I think I am a parent of a special needs child, but thankfully my husband and I have been married and still happily married for 30 years now. So this is not something that has personally impacted me, but I see it impacting families all across the state of Mississippi.
Okay.
Most people don't know that the studies suggest that divorce rates among families that have special needs kids are as high as 87%.
Wow.
It is. And because the tension, it is a difficult thing to do. It's difficult financially. It's difficult emotionally. And some people can't handle it. And it puts strains on marriages, and it really tears it apart. And what oftentimes, unfortunately, you see one parent bearing the responsibility of that special needs child completely when that happens. And you see it over and over again. And so basically about 44 other states make sure that when this is happening in this situation, that the child support extends beyond the age of majority. Simply because your child turns 21 doesn't mean that their disability goes away.
Sure.
It means that that disability continues. The Senate has passed this legislation, I think, through the Senate now 4 or 5 years. So we were very excited. The House took it up on the floor. That's the first time they did, but they put a reverse repealer in the bill.
Explain that to the audience.
Okay, so what it means is a reverse repealer has to go back to the other side. Basically, it's going to wind up in conference.
It passes the opposite side, but it gets repealed, which forces it to go back to the other side.
It forces you to go to conference.
To go to conference.
With the bill.
To continue to work on it. Yeah.
And so Chairman Otis Anthony was really good. We actually, I think, came through with a great bill. And this is a bill that has been, it put a process in place. Our judges are clamoring for this across the state. Our chancellors are. Because they see this time and time again where this one family member then all of a sudden bears all the responsibility because they legally can't make that person contribute to that child once they've reached age of 21. And there's this false presumption out here by the general public that you somehow get this government check immediately. And that's not the case. You may be able to get some benefits, and the judges have said, we'll take all that into consideration, like they do in 44 other states. They'll take those things into consideration, and they'll decide if child support is warranted or not. In some states across the country, they're having that non-custodial parent contribute to the special needs trust. So after they're gone, that those children can be supported by that. But so we get it through the Senate yesterday with no votes, and then it goes to the House and it comes up, and your audience can listen to it. It's recorded in the House yesterday, and if you go to about I'll tell you where it falls off the rails is about hour 6:31. And basically, gentleman stands up and says that this bill gives him great problems because you're going to require somebody who maybe had a child, and this was an example he gave, when they're 50 years old, have to worry about taking care of a special needs kid. And I'm like, did they choose to father that kid? Because, if if they fathered the child, they need to be forced. And it was some of the most offensive things I've heard, because there was no consideration given whatsoever to the disabled child, to the caregiver who's having to take care of it. It was though we were burdening people for having to be responsible for their kid. It was I mean, as a conservative, it was offensive to me in all kind of ways. And basically, it's up to the government. That was the basic message that was being sent. It's up to the government to take care of our children. And that offends me in all kind of levels. And I think the worst thing that I got frustrated with, and I love many of them to death, but I didn't hear a Republican colleague stand up and say, hey, we need to take care of our kids. And that frustrates me. So this session, there's a lot of convenient conservatism. And, and that's what's happened a lot of times with a lot of these bills that have happened down here. And I want people, when they go home, that I want your audience to go ask people, are you making people take care of their children? Are you making people be responsible for their kids? Are they paying their child support in there? Are they taking care of that disabled adult once they reach the age of majority? There's a reason why 44 states have done this. It's because that people need to take care of their kids. And, you get what you get in life. And just because it's inconvenience for you, or it might make you have to work a couple of years longer, that child didn't ask to be born into this world. So you have to take care of it.
It's amazing that we need a law for this.
It is amazing that we need a law with this, and it's amazing the debate that came up and people voted to recommit a bill on this.
Wow.
And they can kind of say, they were trying to say maybe there's a problem with the law. We've got the steps in here. Judges have looked at this. People have looked at this, and we've put the procedures in here to make sure that nobody takes advantage of this. There's two medical professionals have to sign off on this. The judge has to hold a hearing on this, and the judge can take all the factors into account on this. And this is what chancellors do. They take all these things into considerations and they render judgment. And this is something that we have got to make sure that people are taking care of their children. And so this is just, I'm outraged by it a little bit. I'm outraged that we've sent this bill down there this many years and we're still having problems with this, because this is not right in the state of Mississippi. And I'm frustrated with it in all kind of ways.
So where do you think overall, though, the Republican caucus in the House stands on this legislation?
Well, some of them I think we're concerned about, and we met those answers. Some of them were concerned about what's the process, what's the procedures, and would this, and I heard from Republicans say, well, what if this would eliminate a government subsidy for this? And the judge can take all those factors into consideration, So the judge is able to put these procedures out and do this. So it was really disappointing day to see that happen. I was so excited that this could happen. Look, I have had mothers call me. I've had judges call me and say, y'all got to get this law passed. So, we have had, when you have the judicial community calling you saying, y'all have got to take care of this, this is a problem with the law, we need to listen to them and take care of it. And when you hear a special needs mother, I had a woman call me a couple weeks ago, number of weeks ago now, she from the DeSoto County area, working multiple jobs because she's trying to stack away money because she knows she's not going to be here to take care of this kid long term. Yeah. And so the child's about to reach this age of majority, and the judge called her up and said, you got to get this, you got to call your people and make sure this law is changed, because this guy's not going to pay past 21. So,
what happens in that situation?
So the mother, and people think like getting disability takes quite a process. Sure. But a government subsidy doesn't cover all the needs that this child has.
Are you talking about Social Security disability?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a small amount of money.
It's a small amount of money. So this caretaker will be solely responsible for this.
Unbelievable.
To me, it's shocking. I think our churches need to speak out about it. I think everybody needs to speak out about, you need to take care of your children here.
Sure.
So
it's amazing we have to say that.
Yes.
Honestly.
And this bill has just been 70 years.
Pass laws to force it, to require it. Oh my gosh. Okay, where's it going?
Well, it's dead for this year.
It's dead for this year.
It is dead for this year.
Because I looked it up. What a long history this bill has.
So it is dead for this year. So as people go home and your legislators come home, you need to ask them where they are in this and help, if they can help get it passed.
You got to go, or can you hang around?
I can hang around.
Okay. We've got Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd in the Element Wealth studio at the Mississippi Trade Mart for Build Mississippi. We're Trade Mart for Build Mississippi. We're visiting with Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd. So it looks like that we'll have to wait till next year on this legislation.
We'll have to wait till next year. So,
okay.
But we're starting today.
All right. Well, good. So speaking of other legislation that is kind of caught in limbo, how about the budget? It looks like we're maybe headed to a special session there. What do you think?
I am not sure at this moment if we're what is going to happen with that, but at this moment it looks like we're headed into a special session to get the budget done.
Incredible.
So, yeah. So very frustrating. We kind of had a process that we had, lined out from the beginning of the thing. We had a calendar. We knew those dates of what we were going to be doing there, and we were in on Saturday, and just the Senate was in on Saturday, so those all died. So it's been super frustrating about that. So
well, the House contends, hey, we passed our bills, we sent them to you guys, and it didn't need to be there over the weekend.
Yeah, there were no signed bills that were sent over to us.
Well, I heard that as well. So what does that mean then? Where's there a breakdown of the communication here?
Well, our appropriations chair stood on the floor and said we had no signed conference reports.
That'd be Senator Briggs Hobson.
Yes, Senator Briggs Hobson's. The House had said that they had sent over that, but he stood on the well of the Senate or the thing and said we had no signed conference reports. So you can't do anything at that point when there's no signed conference reports.
Okay, so opinion here, and just get your take on it. It feels like that this whole tax ordeal, the tax reform bill, the way it went down, has created an even bigger wedge between the two sides of the Capitol than we had at the beginning of the session. Is that what's going on here? Feels like it.
I think it's that, but I think it's other things too. I think also too, there is the tax situation with that, I think, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when you knew there was an error, and then you didn't say. And there's people that have argued, too, that it could be read the way that it was written. So, there's different opinions on that. But if you thought there was a problem, speak up. Because we have bills all the time that we have problems. Do you know what I'm saying? That we let the other side know that we have problems with. And so we try to make sure that we work those out. Because, it's both Republican supermajorities in both our chambers. We need to be working together on this. And I'm not happy with what I'm seeing within my party right now. We are fighting among about different things in this. But also, too, I'm going to say this. That's what should have happened with that. I think if the shoe had been on the other foot, I think the Senate would have definitely told the House, look, there's an issue here. There's a problem here. Let's work it out. But this game of gotcha does not serve the taxpayers of Mississippi well. And I feel like that was a game of gotcha. And so it's disappointing, and I don't think that's the representative of the majority of members in the Mississippi House of Representatives. But at this point, that is what leadership chose to do. So it is super frustrating with that. So I hope that we can do better. I hope that we can be better about this. But right now, when we had all planned to stay to work because that's what the calendar said. That's what we said we were going to do. And we had said last week that, this is what you do. You have conference weekend. We've had it for years and years, and everybody knows what conference weekend is. The rules didn't change on that, and the House decided to go home on that.
Well, the House maintains that, hey, we're able to get our work done without having to be at the Capitol throughout the weekend prior to sine die.
But the work wasn't done. That's it.
Okay.
The work wasn't done. The conference reports were not sent over signed. Okay. And that week, usually you start about Monday doing those. I'm not in appropriations, but usually about Monday, they're really working hard throughout the week to get those done. Yeah. And that simply wasn't the case, and the conference reports did not come over signed.
Okay.
So, but this is the deal, and I feel like there's probably more at play, wanting certain things in that call that the Senate, and the Senate, I think, wants to do appropriation bills and go home right now.
Okay.
And that's what's left on the calendar for that.
Well, the question is, can that get done with the remaining days? You shared with me earlier that we may have sort of a procedural scheduling problem there.
Well, there would have to be a suspension resolution at this point to do that, and that's what would have to happen at this point.
Is there an appetite for that?
I'm not sure there is, but it depends on what the suspension resolution would look like, I think, at this point. But I don't know that there's an appetite for that right now. I'm not going to speak for my colleagues right now.
Yeah, well, we had the lieutenant governor on yesterday, and he wasn't sure either, honestly. Yeah. He talked about it. He is concerned about the fact that we're running out of time and we don't have a budget.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered, I even shared this with him, senators, maybe we ought to take up the budget early in the session. Now, I know that there's a lot of inputs to that process that you don't have clarified until, obviously, you've completed passing all the other legislation. That's an input. But maybe we ought to pass a framework or something, to work on and get that done early on. I can't think of anything more important than that, honestly.
Absolutely. And that has been batted around by a number of people for a number of years. I mean, we've talked about most of the general bills go through one side.
Yeah.
And then people have talked about pausing all general bill discussion at that point, doing the budgets, and then going back and looking at the general bills on the other side. There's been a number of things proposed, and I think that absolutely that we should be looking at a different process on
Change the schedule around. Because every year it's like this. You know that. We rush at the end to create a $7 billion budget.
Yes, and I think that would be fine, and that would give people really an opportunity to look at those budgets, see if there's an issue. And usually there's one issue or another that we have to come back and fix the next year. So it would give us more time to do that. So.
Someone on the C Spire text line said they'd like to see you run for lieutenant governor or even governor. So how about that? Don't laugh. You never know.
They're really kind.
Sounds like House Speaker White cares more about his fight with the lieutenant governor than the taxpayers of Mississippi. That's from DJ and Summit. So, I mean, we could certainly digest that, dissect that, all day long. And
look, I'm not here to throw stones.
Yeah, sure. I get it.
Here's my message.
Okay.
We're Republicans. We have super majorities. We need to get it together.
Okay, so I would submit to you, Senator, that is a pervasive sentiment from Mississippians. I think
agree.
That's what they think.
I absolutely agree.
And they're frustrated when they see this contention and this inability to get stuff done.
I absolutely agree. So we need to work together and we need to get this done. And but there's procedures and there's rules, and if we don't like the rules, let's change the rules at the beginning, but let's don't throw grenades at the last minute.
Okay. Makes sense. So that's what we got going on there. It also looks like that legislation that would have infused more cash into the PERS program had legislation on both sides. That failed as well.
It did fail. Right now.
That's what it looks like.
That's right now what it looks like.
So we got a new tier, which provides some aid in stabilizing the program. Well, but Executive Director Higgins, of course, from the PERS system says, we got to have a lot more than that. They ain't going to do it.
Yes, but look, this is a huge piece of legislation. I know people aren't happy about that we've had to do a new tier, but this has been going on for years and years, and we just kept digging that hole. And we kept digging it, and we kept digging it, and we didn't do this. And I understand that people are not happy about this new tier, but many of the people that are complaining about the new tier are retirees that are in the old tier. If we're going to make sure that the retirement system that we have promised the individuals that are state employees, we had to develop a new tier, and we had to keep digging that hole because we can't afford the tier that perpetually that we had.
That's right. This is what I talked to the lieutenant governor about yesterday. We're just sort of stopping the bleeding here. We're not solving the problem.
We are.
We're just hopefully we're not digging the hole deeper. And your colleague Senator Daniel Sparks, who's worked incredibly hard on this deal. And I've had countless conversations with him offline. I bounce stuff off of him. He bounces off of me. I appreciate that exchange and relationship. But I want the people to know this guy's worked, and I know you all do, and I'm not trying to
No. This is my desk mate, and
He's worked
he
hard
has
on this.
worked hours and hours.
And he absolutely grasps all the numbers and all the details and all the finance. But he is, he's referred to this as the biggest problem facing the state.
It is the biggest problem facing the state because people don't realize, and a lot of these people who call in or whatever, there's going to be liabilities on the books. It's going to affect people's ability to. So if you're a school system, DeSoto County, they did the other day. I think it's over $600 million of a liability on the books.
It's in their financial statement.
Exactly.
They get ready to borrow money.
Yeah. So you start trying to borrow money.
No doubt.
It has impacts way down the road.
No doubt.
So I mean, this is important though that we got this done this session.
I agree. I agree as well. And I think it was wise to insert it in the tax bill. I'm not sure we would have got it done through other means.
Think it was a good
for
plan.
another day.
Yes.
Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd has been our guest here on MidDays. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back with Kimberly Jones, State Director of Post-Secondary Student Organizations.